I was completely frozen in shock, unable to move, speak, or even think as the words I had overheard the previous night replayed in my mind over and over again. Each syllable, each whispered phrase, seemed to echo louder than the last, hammering relentlessly at my consciousness. My heart felt as though it had turned to ice, a dense, unyielding block of cold that seemed to immobilize every fiber of my being. The realization of what I had heard was a blade cutting through the fragile illusions I had held onto, a truth I was never meant to witness, yet could not ignore. It was a conversation meant to be private, a conversation that should have been buried between the lips of those involved. Yet fate, or perhaps some cruel twist of destiny, had placed me squarely in the path of betrayal. The first third party in that conversation was someone I had trusted implicitly, someone I had confided in, someone I had considered a close friend. Their voice, soft and intimate, had carried secrets meant for another. Secrets that now felt like shards of glass slicing through my very soul. And there, on the other side of that clandestine exchange, was the other person, unaware of my presence, unaware that their whispered words were ringing in my ears like a death knell for my sense of security. The betrayal cut deeper than anything I had ever known. It was a pain so raw that it felt tangible, almost physical, pressing down on my chest, making each breath a laborious task. The sheer enormity of it left me reeling, struggling to make sense of a reality that had suddenly become incomprehensible. The revelation hit me with the force of 1,000 storms. She had been cheating on me. The truth landed on my shoulders with the weight of a mountain, and the intensity of the emotional shock rendered me nearly immobile. The pain radiated outward, a living, breathing presence in the room, filling every corner with its oppressive energy. Memories of laughter, shared confidences, tender moments, all of them, suddenly felt like lies, elaborate illusions meant to mask a hidden reality I was only now beginning to comprehend. I had held both her and the person she had been involved with in the highest regard, never once suspecting that deception had infiltrated the foundation of what I had believed to be genuine love and trust. And now, everything I thought I knew lay shattered at my feet. The presence of a supposed friend in this web of betrayal only deepened the wound. To discover that someone I had considered loyal and sincere had been complicit in this act of treachery added layers to my anguish. It was as if the very ground beneath me had been yanked away, leaving me stranded in a void where nothing was solid, nothing was reliable, nothing was safe. The emotional torment was suffocating, and yet I could not tear myself away from the memory of that conversation. My mind was trapped in a loop, replaying the words with painful clarity, dissecting every inflection, every pause, searching desperately for some hidden meaning, some rationalization that might ease the sting. But there was none, only the naked truth, raw and unyielding. As I struggled to process the enormity of what had occurred, a sense of unreality enveloped me. It was as though the walls themselves had grown ears and whispered the unthinkable truth back to me, amplifying the sense of entrapment. The room seemed to shrink around me, compressing under the weight of betrayal, the air thick and nearly impossible to breathe. I was imprisoned by the enormity of my own pain, confined within a storm of emotions I had never known could exist. Anger and hurt collided with disbelief and sorrow, each emotion feeding into the other, creating a tempest that threatened to drown me entirely. My thoughts raced at an exhausting pace, desperate for clarity, but clarity remained just out of reach. Every attempt to rationalize the situation felt like trying to grasp smoke, intangible and fleeting. How could they have done this to me? How could someone I trusted with my heart, someone I had allowed into the deepest recesses of my life, carry on a deception of this magnitude? The question repeated itself in my mind with relentless insistence, a tormenting mantra that offered no answers. The memories of our time together, once warm and comforting, now felt hollow and deceitful. The moments of joy, of laughter, of intimacy, all tainted, like bright colors smeared with darkness, revealing the hidden truth beneath. I had been living in a facade, a fragile illusion that had crumbled in the span of a single, devastating revelation. The betrayal was not just personal, it felt cosmic, as if the very fabric of reality had been stretched and torn. The trust I had placed in them, the faith in the bonds we had built, lay in fragments at my feet, jagged and sharp, threatening to cut me further if I tried to touch them. I felt lost, adrift in a sea of confusion, with no map to guide me, no hand to reach for. Alone, utterly alone. The emotional weight pressed down, an almost physical burden that made even the simplest tasks feel monumental. Each breath was a reminder of the void where safety, love, and trust once existed. Yet amidst this storm of pain and disbelief, a fire began to ignite inside me. Anger, fierce and unrelenting, mingled with the hurt, creating a resolve that I could not ignore. I refused to let this betrayal slide, to allow deceit and treachery to go unchallenged. My spirit, though wounded, was not broken. It rose like a phoenix from the ashes of heartbreak, fueled by the need for truth and the determination to reclaim my dignity. I would confront them, not with blind rage, but with unwavering clarity, letting them understand that secrets, no matter how well hidden, could not remain in the shadows forever. Even as I emerged from the initial paralysis of shock, my heart remained heavy, a burden of pain I could not yet shed. And yet, with every pang of sorrow, my resolve hardened. I knew I could not be silenced, could not allow the betrayal to define me or diminish my worth. I would make my voice heard, and in doing so, demand acknowledgement, confrontation, and the closure that had been denied to me. Every whispered secret, every lie, would be met with the strength of my truth. I would not cower. I would not turn away. The fire within me would not be extinguished. It would burn with the righteous intensity of someone who had been wronged yet refused to be defeated. In the midst of this emotional turbulence, I also became acutely aware of the subtle but pervasive impact of betrayal on every aspect of my life. It had shaken not just my heart, but my perception of reality itself. The simplest interactions felt laden with suspicion. The most ordinary experiences seemed tinged with the memory of deceit. The world, once vibrant and alive, now appeared distorted, tainted by the shadow of treachery. It was as though a veil had been lifted, revealing not the beauty I had imagined, but the fragile, brittle nature of human trust. And yet, the storm was not only emotional, it extended into the practical, the tangible. Financially, I found myself hesitant, wary of entrusting anyone with resources, fearful that my generosity might be exploited as had my trust in love and friendship. The pain of betrayal had seeped into my decisions, making me cautious, almost to the point of paralysis. Opportunities that might have once seemed promising now appeared fraught with risk, tainted by the potential for deception. I recognized that the experience had left me scarred, but I also realized that this was a moment for reflection, for growth, for reclaiming control over the aspects of my life I could still influence. I understood that my kindness, my willingness to give, must be tempered with wisdom. Just as I would confront emotional betrayal with strength and clarity, so too would I approach financial challenges with discernment. It was time to break free from cycles of exploitation, to set boundaries, and to ensure that generosity was met with respect, not taken for granted. I could no longer afford to give blindly, to trust without caution, to invest in others without first safeguarding my own foundation. This was a lesson harshly learned, yet it was a lesson that would guide me towards stability, security, and a renewed sense of self-reliance. The fire within me, the anger, the grief, the determination, became my guide. I would navigate this new reality with vigilance, aware of the fragility of trust, yet resolute in my commitment to stand strong. I would confront those who had wronged me, not simply for the sake of retribution, but to reclaim my voice, my agency, and my right to exist in a world where betrayal did not dictate my worth. And as I did so, I would also rebuild the parts of my life that had been weakened by deceit, restoring financial stability, emotional resilience, and spiritual clarity. I began to envision a future where I was no longer imprisoned by the past. The anger that once threatened to consume me would be channeled into constructive action. Each confrontation, each boundary set, each decision made with caution and clarity would serve as a step toward liberation. I would emerge from this storm not merely as a survivor, but as someone transformed, stronger, wiser, and unwavering in the pursuit of justice, truth, and personal integrity. The betrayal had sought to break me, but instead, it became the catalyst for growth, resilience, and empowerment. In the quiet moments, when the echoes of pain threatened to overwhelm, I reminded myself that every storm eventually passes, and even in the aftermath, when the world seems gray and fragile, there is opportunity to rebuild, to reclaim, to redefine. The betrayal, as devastating as it was, illuminated the need for vigilance, discernment, and courage. It revealed the stark reality of human imperfection, but it also highlighted the power of personal resolve. I had been tested, and though wounded, I would rise, not just to survive, but to thrive.